Hello folks, welcome to the course overview of learning shell scripting in Linux C shell environment. The endeavor of this course is to cover the nitty-gritty of C shell environment before putting your attention into creating scripts in the C shell. All the components needed to fire your shell scripts are covered. In this section, you learn about history of the C shell or CSH, what is a shell, installation of CSH, creating an user defaulting to CSH. History of C shell. Bill Joy developed the C shell at the University of California, Berkeley. He is also famous for founding the company called Sun Microsystems, eventually bought by Oracle. You can find many resources on Bash scripting, but scarcely anything on C shell scripting. This course is an attempt to fill this gap. While Bash scripting is no doubt popular and widely used in many a vertical, C shell scripting has created a niche of its own. It is the de facto shell in engineering companies. It is also used in universities due to its resemblance to the programming language C. In my opinion, it's the skill that you ought to have in your CV for the differential it creates. It can also be a precursor to learning the C language and then proceed to popular languages such as Java, JavaScript, and Python. Prerequisites for this course. You must have some knowledge of any Linux operating system. If you do not have the requisite experience, please go for a basic learning course on Linux. I have included my book, Linux, a Quick Learning Guide here. You may like to read this book. Infrastructure. I have used VM VirtualBox on Windows 10 machine with Ubuntu and CentOS installation. I am accessing Ubuntu and CentOS using PuTTY from my Windows 10 desktop. What is a shell? A shell is an interface between you, the user, and the system. This is a simplistic definition of a shell. It is a command interpreter as well. The shell translates the command you enter in the shell to a language understandable to the system. Here, the system refers to the kernel. The kernel is the heart of the Linux operating system. In fact, the kernel is the Linux operating system itself. So the shell coordinates with the kernel to get the commands you enter to be executed. The kernel itself provides an abstraction layer between you, the user, and the hardware components of your computer through drivers. This relation is illustrated in the following screenshot. The shell also offers programming abilities. If you're coming from the Windows background, you will understand the role of CMD or command interpreter and DOS batch programming. Similarly, the equivalent of DOS batch programming is shell programming in Linux distributions. The shell script is nothing but an ASCII or text file that has a series of control or decision structures along with the commands that you use on the command line. The three main shells are bash, corn, and C shell. Obviously, the bash or born again shell and corn shells are very popular worldwide, while C shell has a niche market in mostly engineering firms. Finding out your shell. To find the shell you're using, log into a Linux distribution of your choice. Enter your credentials, that is your login name and the password, and you will see the prompt, the $sign. To check if the shell is CSH, enter the following command on the prompt. The echo command displays the value of the variable shell. The shell is a pre-configured variable. Since it is a variable, $sign must precede it. So you enter echo space $shell. The value we get is /bin/bash. This is not what you are looking for. You want to see the absolute path to the C shell executable, which will be /bin/csh. Since you do not have the C shell, you must install it. Installation of CSH shell. To install the CSH shell, enter the following command: logging to existing shell bash or ksh, sudo apt install csh. Note, this command is for the Ubuntu operating system. In CentOS, the command to install the C shell is yum install csh. You must also log in as root. Creating an user defaulting to C shell. After the installation of the C shell, create a user using the following command user add. You should use sudo from your current shell to elevate and use the user add command. The command will be sudo user add -d, specify the home directory, space -s, specify the default shell, in this case CSH, space the username, in this case Jeff. Thank you, and let's go over for a demo.